きな食べ物、それから好きな季節、好きな時間帯、好きな場所、そんなところをちょっと教えていただきたいです。
Let's see. Favorite fruit? Watermelon? Hard to say. I'm a vegetarian, so I guess it would be fruit of some kind, watermelon, cherries. I have to say my favorite place is where I live, up in Woodstock, New York. And let's see, what else was there? Favorite time of day, or
time of day.
I guess probably the evening, so like late afternoon. Excuse me, early evening, and I think autumn would be my favorite season.
あなたにとって、日本という国は、どういう感じを持っていますか？
Well, I first came over in, excuse me, in 77, I think in September of 77, and I always enjoy coming here. I always look forward to it, and I feel, fairly comfortable here in Tokyo, especially. I spent more time here, I guess, than in any other place, any other city. And I've always been interested in Japanese culture, and so it's a continuing education for me.
アート・オブ・ティーや、スリーピング・ジプシーを制作していた、頃のことなんですけれども、トミー・リピューマやアル・シュミットとのレコード制作は、スムーズに進行したのかなというのは、すごいどんな風に、レコードを作られたのか、もし差し障りがなければ裏話とかがあればちょっとすごく興味があるんですけど。
Yeah, there were a few funny stories there. Well, the recording always went very well. The actual recording always was very easy. For the Art of Tea, I think we recorded all the tracks in 12 hours. We had 2 3-hour days and 1 6-hour day, and we had recorded all the tracks. And so that part was always easy. Of course, I met with Joe Sample and Larry Carlton before we actually went into the studio, and I played the tune stand just on the acoustic guitar. So they kind of had a sense of what was going to happen. But the actual time in the studio to record rhythm tracks was very smooth and without any problems, really. With the Art of Tea, we did have some problems when we were mixing the record. Tommy, we mixed the record once at Warner Brothers Studios, and we didn't. Tommy especially didn't like the mixes, and he was suspicious of them for some reason. I don't know why. They changed the speakers. They had changed the speakers in the studio. And he had a kind of, he had this very kind of superstitious feeling about them because they were different. They sounded great to me, and I really thought I thought they were fine. But we ended up remixing the record. We went back to the Capitol Tower where we had recorded it, and we ended up going back there and remixing with Al Schmidt. So that was a little, minor glitch. It was a little disturbing for me because we made the record in the summer of '75, and it was not released until February, I think, of '76. So there was a long time, between recording it and actually releasing it. So that was a little, stressful, kind of waiting for it to happen. But no, otherwise it was pretty seamless and smooth. But I did work on the vocals more. You know, I mean, the 12 hours was just to cut the tracks. I had to go back and fix up a lot of stuff.
それではですね、新作のことについてお伺いしたいんですけれども、ランデブ・イン・リオは、5人のプロデューサーを起用されてますけれども、マイケル・ファンス、あなたのレコード制作においてそのプロデューサーの位置というか関係ですね、それは、どのような形になっているのかをちょっとお伺いしたいんですけれども、例えばどういうことかというと、サウンドだけに関わるとか、あるいはメロディーとか、それから詩とか、ね、そういうところまで、関わってくるのか。日本の場合はかなりこうプロデューサーが入り込んでくるケースが多くて、でそういうところでアーティストといつもこうぶつかるっていうようなことがあるんですけれども、ミスターマイケルの場合は、どういった形で、関わられているのかっていうのをちょっとお聞きしたいです。
Well, they're certainly not involved in songwriting or lyrics or anything. But the way I always have worked is I write the material and I kind of carefully, scrutinize it to make sure it's what I want to do. And then I give the producer, the material using more than one producer, like this. On this project 5, I found that it's very interesting to be able to actually cast the material with certain producers and actually choose the material for a particular producer. And so that's what I did on this project. I sent Chuck Loeb the songs I thought he would be able to do his best work on, and Jeff Lorber, I sent the things I thought were sort of suited for him, and that's sort of the way I did it. And then after that happens, we have conversations, a lot of phone conversations, and we discuss ideas for arrangements and players and things like that. And then usually what happens is the producers will send me back a very kind of rough sketch of their arrangement ideas, and usually they're always great, and I'm always totally happy with them most of the time. Usually that never changes, and then we talk about when to record and which players to use.
日本でいうといわゆるサウンドプロデューサーというような感じですかね。
Sounded like the sound producer that we call them sound. The producer for you. You think?
Sorry, I don't really understand.
Well, we in Japan we call those type of people
like the ones I use, sound producers. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, occasionally, because you were talking about, do they have any influence on the material, on the actual compositions? Occasionally, and maybe this is true, maybe this is something that he's experienced too, being a singer-songwriter. A producer will say, well, maybe you should not repeat that as many times. If you're writing a song and you might repeat the chorus 3 times. Sometimes the producer will say, well, maybe you should only do it twice, So there are some suggestions, but not about the actual music or about the lyrics. Occasionally they make suggestions that are very helpful, or with me it's usually maybe I always like to plan for solos, so I always leave a lot of space for a solo. And sometimes the producer will suggest that I've left too much space, maybe, But so I sometimes give them a little too much room, And the producer will say, well, let's take 8 bars off of that.
すごく聞きたかったんですが、僕は、ミス・マイケルの音楽はとても個性的だし、他には全く同じようなものはない、個性的で特徴的なものだと思って大好きなんですけども、そこでねちょっと、抽象的で答えづらいかもしれないんですが、ちょっと質問させていただきたいんですけれども、でまず最初は、あなたにとってコード進行、特にですかね、コードプログレッション、楽曲におけるコード進行はとはって言われたらどうでしょう。
Always different, or often different. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I usually start with a musical idea, and I never write lyrics until I finish the music. I might have an idea for the title or for a line or something, but I never really can write the lyrics until I've got the music sort of almost finished and into some kind of recorded shape, so I can listen to it. But I begin with just sit at the piano. I teach myself a new chord progression or something, and then that seems appealing, or I might want to use. It's always kind of a mysterious beginning, and then the more I have this part, the easier lyrics. But I don't really have any. I'm sure that I do have like some kind of 2-5-1 or something chord progression, like the second, the fifth, and the root or something. But I'm not aware of it. I never music.
にはとても特徴的なマイケル・フランクスのコード進行が
For him,
感じます
the
ね。
your chord progression is very quite profound.
それがすごくいい。
And they're
素敵です。
that's good.
Thanks.
たくさん、メロディーとか、詩とか、ボーカルについてとかそういうのとバックトラックについて、どういうふうにお考えですか？
Well, we always begin with a rhythm track. Very few times have I ever recorded. I think the Tiger in the Rain was one record that I recorded with the orchestra. John Simon produced that, and I actually sang with the orchestra on those cuts where we used an orchestra. And but mostly, I think the way I've always worked is to get a rhythm section, go into the studio and record the rhythm tracks, and then I usually work on the vocals for a while after that. Sometimes I usually keep, I don't know, maybe 75% of the live vocals. I usually cut in and fix up and make repairs, and then we think about the arrangement and the further arrangement, like horns or strings or whatever, and that's always last. So the rhythm track is first, and the vocals kind of almost first, close to first, and then everything but who weren't part of the section, we would do those overdubs afterwards. So I guess, I'm not sure, but I think rhythm track is the most important thing, and then sometimes, I've worked a few times with arrangers who came up with arrangements that were a little too grand, I thought, I worked with Ymir Deodato on Birchfield Lines, and Deodato wrote some charts. They were really interesting and everything, but they kind of overwhelmed the tracks. The rhythm section was Steve Gadd, Will Lee, John Tropez, Leon Pendarvis, Ralph McDonald. And so here was this great, Ernie Watts played horn. Here was this great, rhythm section sound, and then Deodato wrote these charts, but they were kind of, they were very orchestral and interesting, but I really didn't like any of them. then Deodato didn't like me after that. But we're friends again. We are friends now. But in the beginning he was very defensive of his arrangements. We only used his once, but we didn't really use his arrangements.
いや、すごい楽しいお話を聞かせていただきました。
Thank you very much.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。